Okay, welcome to episode 2 of the alternative future of the world. We're going to have a lot of unifications and wars in this one. I changed the color of this. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about Lesotho just in a second. Um, I changed the color of this because they were all black and the borders are black, so then, you can't see the borders. But the most important thing we're going to do right now is talk about what happened to Lesotho. Lesotho, well, I messed up the borders, but I was going to make it be annexed by South Africa anyway, so I guess we'll do that next. So Lesotho has basically no chance here. It just gets completely annexed by South Africa and has absolutely no chance. There you go. It's now South Africa under South African control. Okay, we have a few more things happening in Europe. We gotta quantify these issues here. So Liechtenstein is annexed by, believe it or not, Switzerland. Monaco is annexed by France. I guess just let's be very detailed about this right here. Okay, you have to be very precise. Yeah, so it gets annexed by France, and then Andorra gets annexed by Spain. So they all occupy those areas, put their troops there and all that stuff. Same with San Marino. Italy just takes action there. I wouldn't want Italy invading Corsica though, because it's part of France already. So that would give sour relations between them. But Italy comes down here and invades Malta and basically annexes it. So now it's part of Italy. So yeah, I should probably clarify that. That's now part of Italy. I should clarify last episode. Okay, so the Azores and stuff and Madeira are still part of Portugal. The Canary Islands have not been fought over yet. They are part of Spain. And the Bahamas was probably taken over by the United States. And Puerto Rico is a state. And so is the Bahamas. Even though the Bahamas didn't really want to be a state, they are now a state because they were taken over. And the U.S. Virgin Islands also vote to become a state. The U.S. Virgin Islands do. All right, now we have something very important happening, and that is something in South America happening. Actually, let's do something in Asia, because we haven't done something in Asia yet. Something very important happens in Asia, and that is a massive war for Israel. So the West Bank is very angry about Jerusalem. They want Jerusalem, so does Israel. Israel has the United States as a big ally. Palestine has the entire Arab League as a big ally, or as a bunch of big allies. So then they start a war. We have Palestine on one side with all of its allies versus Israel. Palestine declares war on Israel. So we're not going to color these in actually. The reason I'm not going to do that is because that just confuses it. It just adds more confusion. Yeah. See, and sometimes it fucks it up too. Okay, let's fix this real quick. Okay, let's see if it works now. It does not. Okay, here's the quickest way to do this. All you gotta do is do a different color. And then it should work. Yeah, okay, no more coloring. No more coloring. There we go. See, I don't know why it does that. It's just, paint is not the best place to do this, but I have to make this. So yeah. So, Israel basically starts off very strong. They already have, like, US bases there and shit. They just take over quite a bit of the West Bank. They just, with like almost no resistance, they just take it over, and the Gaza Strip as well. And since they're technically at war with the entire Arab League now, they start invading the Sinai Peninsula. Um, so they start invading the Sinai Peninsula, and they do a good job of this because, you know, Egypt is not as powerful as Israel. Now they get to the south, and they do get a little bit of resistance from Egypt. Up north, they do. So up north, they get some resistance from Egypt, and Egypt gets about to here and takes a little bit over here. They fight back the forces, kill them in this area. Now they have a Egypt majority here in terms of troops. Now Israel keeps pushing through and meets up with the forces up here. Now, while this is all happening, Israel is getting troops from America, from Cyprus, from Turkey, from all these places, from Georgia. They're all, especially the United States and the Western countries, they are sending troops in. But Israel will have to defend itself mostly for now against all of these Arab majority countries. So Jordan starts pushing up in the north to not much avail. Uh, Israel starts pushing up into Syria because Syria is not very strong. But they try to stick to the border of Syria just to not piss off Jordan too much. And they basically invade quite a bit of Syria, of the southern part of Syria. Now, at this point, this is where the US troops arrive in Israel, and they start storming inland as Saudi Arabia and Egypt's forces are pouring into Jordan and eastern Egypt. So Egypt starts pushing back because they get more forces here and start pushing back Israel. And then they meet up with some Israeli troops. Well, they killed a bunch of Israeli troops, but they meet up with more of them. And then it's basically a stalemate in that zone right there. And then the Saudis meet up in Jordan, right around here, and form a wall, basically, like that, to prevent Israel from going any further. I mean, they're pretty far away from the wall, but Israel does a good job of basically taking over. Well, first of all, they push back here in Jordan. They completely destroy with the U.S. troops. With the help of the U.S. troops, they completely destroy everything. And then they meet up with the Saudi troops on this defensive line here, and then they basically stop because they're in a stalemate. Not really, but there's not Iranian. There's Iraqi troops, and where else? And Kuwait and Oman and Yemen. They're all sending troops, all right? So while this is all happening, Israel is just getting just massive. They start invading Lebanon. Lebanon has almost no chance here. And then Lebanon actually surrenders because they have no they have nothing left, basically. They're losing, so they surrender. And then we see the Iraqi, and this is over the course of very like many weeks or days or whatever. So we start seeing the Iraqi and Yemeni troops uh, arriving, and even Algerian troops arriving in here, and they start pushing back massively in the Sinai Peninsula. They start, okay, let's get the brush. They start pushing back massively in the Sinai Peninsula, not that much, but they start pushing back. They don't go all the way south there, but they start pushing back, and then it's a stalemate again. Because the Israeli troops are just so powerful. Now the Iraqi troops arrive, and they start pushing back a little bit. They go through Jordan here, and they start pushing back a little bit. But then, basically to no avail. So Israel gets held off right now. Despite Lebanon surrendering, they continue to invade Lebanon, actually, uh, against Lebanon's will, and completely occupy it. Now they start pushing into Syria even more. They're focusing more on Syria than anything, so they start pushing into Syria. They start pushing into Syria quite a bit, and then they eventually stop because they're met by, I don't know, nobody. They eventually stop because they're met by some Iraqi troops over here that are stopping them. That went through Syria, yes. All right, and this is where the Arab League surrenders. They do not want to lose too much land, or they don't surrender. They agree to a peace treaty. As long as Israel stops, they will stop fighting as well. So now we look at the peace treaty. Gotta go way back here. Okay, so here's the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We erase this border between Egypt and Israel. You'll see why in a second. Okay, and the Gaza, the West Bank as well. We're gonna erase that border. Now this right here is not really a border up here. This is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Syria. Erase the borders between Lebanon and Syria because that was all occupied by Israel. Okay, so right around here, we're gonna get a border a little bit more than what Israel occupied, but they're gonna cut down a little bit here. Give a little bit of that back to Syria. Now they're gonna get a little bit of what they occupied here in Jordan, and it goes all the way over to there, and then they're gonna get a little bit of the Sinai Peninsula. They're actually gonna go way down here to the Sinai Peninsula, and it's gonna go all the way up here. There we go. Now, if you want to see what this actually looks like, well, first we have to actually color this in. I wonder what happens if I color this in. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's not interesting though. That's okay. We'll do this by hand. It's tedious, but it's worth it. Trust me. Okay. So we cut down this border here. It's not a border anymore. And Israel, you can see how much land they actually gained in this conquest, in this war. They gained quite a bit of land. They gained all that up there and all this down here. So there's Israel now. Now, the Arab League here is very mad. So they actually make a agreement with Russia and the CSTO to they give a very particular agreement to Russia for some defense help. They partition Syria up, right? What they do is they partition Syria up like this, and then they give this half, they make it independent basically, and it has to join the CSTO. And then this part of Syria will be annexed into Jordan, so Jordan can get more sea. Everybody's happy except Syria. Syria wasn't happy anyway. And yeah, let's do those borders accurately. Okay. There we go. And then there's another agreement with Russia. No, that's it. That'll be it for now. The strategic version for this is so that they can. The strategic reason for this is so that there can be bases, right? Bases in Syria, Russian bases, so they can help defend Syria. And you'll see why this is necessary. You're like, the Arab League's not in CSTO, right? You'll see what's going to happen in the future. You'll see what's going to happen. Something wild is going to happen in the future. I kind of spoiled it already, but yeah, something wild, or what you might consider to be wild. Not entirely what you think though. But yeah, for now this is the borders, and I guess that's not it for this episode. We're gonna see a little bit more action happening. We're gonna see out of nowhere. Okay, wait. Let's. So you know how China has Hong Kong, right? Well, we should probably clarify that because they definitely, at this point in the future, have Hong Kong. They have they have Hong Kong here. They have Hong Kong. They do not have full custody of Taiwan. They claim Taiwan, but they do not have full control over it like they do with mainland China. So there's Hong Kong. And so China does an invasion, okay? They do an invasion. Okay, well, before I tell you what happens, North Korea at this point is so poor and so starved of resources that it makes a bold move to join the CSTO to gain resources. Okay? Now, it also makes a treaty with Russia that not only does it have to join the CSTO, but Russia gets a little bit of land from it. And when I mean a little bit of land, I mean like a little bit of land. Like, you'll see what I mean. So let's erase this border here between North Korea and Russia. Erase the border. And Russia gets a little bit of land from them. Like, not very much, but they get a little bit more. Okay? That was the deal. And North Korea has to join the CSTO. The deal was, if they're allowed to join the CSTO, they are allowed to join the CSTO if they give this little bit of land here to Russia. So that is kind of an ultimatum, actually. Like, you would think, why would Russia do that? But Russia doesn't have to let North Korea into the CSTO, for example. Well, technically, all the members have to vote on it, and they overwhelmingly agree to let North Korea in because they see some turmoil happening in Israel, obviously. You also see a few other things happening. That is, Kyrgyzstan declaring war on Uzbekistan. Or vice versa. No, definitely the other way around. Because Uzbekistan declaring war on Kyrgyzstan would be definitely not a good thing. So we have Kyrgyzstan declaring war on Uzbekistan. So after Kyrgyzstan declares war on Uzbekistan, they immediately get help from Russia, and Tajikistan helps, and Afghanistan helps. Russia helps, Kazakhstan helps. I was pointing to this as if it was Russia, but that's not Russia. This is Russia. So immediately before they declare war on them, they get a bunch of Russian troops. Actually, before they even declare war on them, they set this up in a way that months before they declared war on them, there were already tons of Russian troops along the border here. So Uzbekistan was a little bit scared of what was going to happen, but they also prepared their troops, their own troops in Uzbekistan along basically their entire border between all the way from here, all the way across here, all the way over there, all the way over to here and here and here. But then they're not thinking about their Turkmenistan border because they see Turkmenistan as neutral, which might be their downfall. You never know. I'll just try to color that red. Okay, so immediately they attack. They declare they were preparing for the war, and then they declared war on Uzbekistan. Okay, so they declare war on Uzbekistan, and they immediately start pushing in. Now Uzbekistan has some pushing in of their own, actually, into Tajikistan, and then they're held off a little bit. But they also push into here a little bit. Alright, and then we have Kyrgyzstan continuing to push into Uzbekistan. They continue pushing, and they push in. Tajikistan pushes in a little bit. Afghanistan pushes in a little bit to southern Uzbekistan. I did not mean to invade Turkmenistan there. And then Kazakhstan starts infiltrating Uzbekistan up here. That is the wrong color of red, is it not? Whatever. We'll deal with that later. They start invading Uzbekistan. Now Uzbekistan did not look at this border too importantly, so they're starting to regret that. So we have a little pushback here of Kazakhstan and Russia into Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan's starting to hold their own a little bit because they put all their troops along the border because they saw this coming. But it's still no avail. Russia and Kazakhstan start pushing in immediately, and they just start destroying Uzbekistan. Now, Uzbekistan does have a little bit of fighting to do, and they focused most of their troops in a specific location, which is this location over here, along this entire border. So they start pushing in, and they get pretty far in, actually. They completely destroy the Kazakhs over here because there's basically no Russians over here. It's just the Kazakhs. They have a easy time pushing through here. It's mostly just desert anyway. And then they immediately go straight for the Caspian Sea. Now they start pushing in even further, and then they eventually stop. Now the Kazakhs eventually meet up with this and start pushing back. They're able to do it a little bit, but there are still troops in Uzbekistan, mostly along this border. And yes, these, I did not mean to do that. These troops here in Kazakhstan just get destroyed. Okay, there we go. Now, back here in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, they start doing a little bit better. They push into Uzbekistan and manage to cut it off, actually. Tajikistan does manage to cut it off. They meet with the Kazakh troops, and then they completely cut it off, and this part of Tajikistan surrenders. Not the whole thing, just this part. part surrenders right here. This is where a lot of the population is, so they surrender. That's actually where the capital is, so I guess by proxy the entirety of Uzbekistan surrenders as well, because their capital gets captured. It gets captured. So you can see they get captured. Now Uzbekistan surrenders. Now we're going to look at this peace treaty. There's going to be a very weird peace treaty you're going to see. Okay, here's the peace treaty. So the peace treaty is, the CSTO basically takes nearly all of Uzbekistan. You'll see what's going to happen. So they take this part. Tajikistan takes this part, even though they never occupied that part of Uzbekistan. It can still be in the treaty. And then the parts that they occupied are also taken into account. And like a little bit into account. Okay, let me color this in a little bit. Okay. Okay. You're about to see what happens here. So Kazakhstan gets a huge chunk of Uzbekistan here. As you can see, that is the wrong red color, is it not? Yes. Oh no, wait, that up there was the wrong red color. I see. This part of Uzbekistan gets filled in because it's claimed by Kyrgyzstan. It's claimed by Kyrgyzstan. We can fill this in now as Kyrgyzstan. Now, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are not going to like each other here, so Kyrgyzstan agrees to give up a little bit of their land so that they can give it to Tajikistan. They are allies, after all. Unlikely allies. So, Kyrgyzstan gives that to Tajikistan, gives that to Tajikistan, just for no reason, just because they're allies. And because they're forced to in this treaty, because, I mean, Russia fought in the war, Kazakhstan fought in the war, they basically forced Kyrgyzstan to do that, just to make the borders not ugly. And so the borders actually make sense. Okay. Now, there's Tajikistan. Now, looks a little bit better. Kyrgyzstan as well. Then we have Kazakhstan. And then Uzbekistan is given a little bit of land. A little bit which they occupied is now theirs. Because, I mean, they have no other choice. They occupied the land. Uzbekistan is now controlling this land. Up to a certain point, right about there. Now, it's not going to be perfect. Now, actually, there's also another. They give all this land to Uzbekistan, but only under a certain condition, is that they join the CSTO. That is the wrong red color. Let me do this again. That condition is that they join the CSTO. Now, Turkmenistan is looking quite sad here. Not quite sad, quite afraid here. So there's a new union that takes place. A new union between some strong countries. Obviously, Iran does not want to be an ally with Saudi Arabia. So it's not going to be the Arab League. It's going to be a new union of, let's see, green, between Iran, Azerbaijan, and Turkmenistan. They form a union called I don't know, the Persian Union or something. Okay. So I guess that'll be it for this video. I can't make it too long. So we had a few things happening this episode. We had Israel becoming quite a bit larger, declaring war on the Arab League. The Arab League, or at least Lebanon, surrendered. The Arab League basically dipped out of that because they were losing super bad. And then a peace deal was negotiated that Israel basically got most of what they occupied. And then the Arab League relied on splitting Syria and half of it joining the CSTO so that they could get more Russian bases in Syria to help them out in a war. You would think, why wouldn't these Arab countries be in the CSTO? Well, they're going to join, but you can't let the world stage know quite yet that you're going to join the CSTO. They want to keep it a secret, so they're secretly members of the CSTO. The ones that are secretly members, I'll tell you this at the end of the video. The ones that are secretly members of the CSTO are Jordan and Iraq. And just throw Kuwait in there, for example, as well. Listen, why not? Alright, so those are the ones that are in the CSTO secretly. Okay, but right now they're just masquerading as part of the Arab League. So that means if Israel attacks Jordan, for example, again, then Russians will send in their troops to attack Israel. And that'll cause an all-out war, I think. So, or actually, the Russians aren't going to attack Israel, for example. They're going to occupy Jordan to prevent it from being taken over. Then Israel will not want to fight against the Russians, or else they will have started the war. So it's actually a smart plan to make Syria part of the CSTO. And to have these countries in the Middle East part of it as well. Okay, that's it for the... Oh yeah, and also the recap is that Uzbekistan was basically split up. They were completely destroyed and forced to join the CSTO as well. And that prompted these three countries to form a new union because obviously they do not like the CSTO. Azerbaijan does not like the CSTO because Armenia is in it. Turkmenistan does not like the CSTO because they're probably more allied with Turkey, for example, but they don't necessarily want to be part of the Western Union. So, it all makes sense, doesn't it? Not really, but it's all make-believe anyway, so. Alright, that's it.